Hello, my name is Jacob Tonson and welcome back to the Wisdom of Odin. Many of you have come to this channel in this last year, starting with my video where I sat in my little apartment and said I sold everything. Well, welcome to my new living room of trees and my tree table. I wish. This is awesome. But yeah, this kind of is symbolic of my life on the road, I think, a little bit, finding strange and unique things to share with you. And this is what I've been doing for the last year. So all of 2023, for the most part, I have been wandering the world and bringing beautiful sights and locations and subjects to all of you here on YouTube. And I've learned a lot along that journey. And so in this video, I want to give advice to people out there, advice to you, the viewer, that I've learned on this year-long journey. So I hope you enjoy it, but first I just want to have a big thank you to everyone that watches these videos, because 2023 has been the best year for this channel ever. So much so, I believe it's more than doubled in viewership from 2022. The viewership this year I think was something like 2.5 or 2.6 million views, with like over 30,000, or I think it's like 33,000 new subscribers. And December alone was the busiest month for this channel ever. And so thank you truly from the bottom of my heart. It means so much to me. 2024, I have some amazing plans ahead and some truly amazing opportunities to share with you as well. So thank you so much for watching this content. It truly did start with me hitting record on and being out of focus. So it's come a long way. So with that, let's begin with my first piece of advice for 2024 for people. Is one of the ones I had last year, which is gratitude. And hopefully this is one I have every single year. Gratitude is at the core, I think, of humanity. I think gratitude is at the core of spiritual practices. It's definitely the core of shamanic practices, which is what I've been on the quest of this year. I'm on the healing path, and that healing path, I think, naturally leads to helping others as well. And so a lot of what I'm going to be talking about today is related to my healing journey, and part of that is definitely gratitude on the daily basis. And I think even for the people out there who are pagan, worshiping these gods, I think, is a lot of gratitude, is a lot of sitting there saying thank you for what is done for us, thank you for what happens in our life, and then giving an object, giving something of gratitude back to the supernatural powers around us. Or just looking at a beautiful day like this in the forest, in the mountains, and being grateful for it, being grateful for that giant ball of fire that is blinding my eyeballs right now. You know, life is so much different now for us than it was for our ancestors in the past. And recognizing how different and easy our lives have become as far as survival, as far as getting food, as far as you know, getting water, shelter, staying warm. It's much easier to live in 2024 than it was to live in 1024. But I do believe there's a lot to learn from the ancestors, and I think that's from the simpler lives they lived, being more connected to the natural world and what was around us. And so I think that's why so many of us are going back to the old traditions and learning from the pagan past, is because we yearn for that simpler life in our increasingly complicated world. So my second piece of advice is what I'm doing right now, which is hiking. Now, it's not go outside as it used to be, which that's still very important. I think that was one of my first big pieces of advice on this channel. But to me, one of the biggest things for me this year was healing. But healing comes in many different ways. And so in most spiritual health communities, there's an understanding at least of the mind, body, and spirit. And understanding that all three of these need to be in balance, and if one is unhealthy, it'll affect the other two. And so if you want to have a stronger spiritual experience in life, you need to take care of your mind and your body. So for me, this was taking care of my body this year. A lot of these spiritual retreats that I went to quite a few this year, and I'm about to go to another one, is diet. Now, this is something that a lot of people don't want to hear, and everyone has an opinion about. But just like in a future segment, just because we have so many different opinions about things and we have so many different differences, it's good to focus on what we have in common. And the pursuit of health is what to focus on. So for all the health Nazis out there who think they know the only right way, please understand that this is what works for me. And that is one of the pieces of advice I have, is that your health journey is going to be unique to you. You're going to find what works for you specifically. But I think if I have the main focus of this advice segment is thinking about everything in the term of medicine, good or bad, especially when it comes to food or drinks. Is it good medicine or is it bad medicine? And I think everything to some extent has the ability to be considered good medicine. Caffeine, I think, is a great example of this, because caffeine is something that I think we all, at some point in life, typically abuse. We drink that cup of coffee a day, or 2 cups of coffee, or 3 cups of coffee, or green tea, or Coca-Colas. We're addicted to that caffeine, and we feel the negative effects when we don't drink it. We all have tried that before. We've tried to kick it, right? And then we get that massive headache. We feel absolutely drained. And we just drink that caffeine again because you're like, oh, I need it in life. But it does take like a week or two to truly get past this dependency on caffeine. I did this year. I was caffeine free for like 3 or 4 months. And now I treat it as medicine. I had a cup of coffee today because I knew I was going to go on this hike. I knew I was going to film, and I have like 2 other obligations today as well. And so I needed that medicine to get through the day. I needed a stimulant because I woke up early to take this hike and to film with all of you. And so I needed that medicine to help. But the moment I start doing it every day because I'm dependent on it, caffeine becomes bad medicine. Obviously, this is not a concept unique to me. This is a concept that is typically from Central and North and South America, from the indigenous people here, this idea of medicine and being good and bad, or bitter or sweet medicine. It's definitely something I picked up in the shamanic circles that I've been a part of. But it's been a way to look at the world and my diet and what I put in my body as good or bad. And again, I think this applies to many things, like cell phones, smartphones. This can be good medicine, right? This can be good for us. It's great for networking. It's great for connecting with other people. It's great for connecting with family, for work. But when does it become bad medicine? When does it become bad for us? And I think that's when we get addicted to the feed, the social media feed. It's literally called a feed. It's feeding you. And we sit there hours on Reels or TikToks and we just, scroll like that. That is bad medicine. But when I use this to reach out to a friend that I met in Europe and have a cup of coffee over FaceTime, that's good medicine, I think. And so really changing my perspective on everything in life and thinking about it in this way is really helped me. So hopefully this is a concept that helps. Maybe I'll expand upon this in a larger video because I've recorded this segment like 10 times over because I think I have a lot to say about it. But bottom line is I've been on a health healing journey. I've lost a lot of weight because of it. I've lost 40 pounds this year. I started my journey at 222 pounds, and now even after being back in the United States, my weight is 185 pounds. So roughly 40 pounds is what I've lost. And I feel healthier. It's not just about weight loss. I feel healthier, I feel stronger, I have more endurance, and I have a better spiritual connection when I need one. So I definitely recommend starting your healing journey as far as your health if you haven't already. It's a long journey, it's a lifelong journey, but taking that first step and being conscious about what you put into your body, being conscious about what you consume both physically and digitally, I think is a really great place to start. So it's here in this really beautiful spot. I'm going to talk about something that is going to be hard because it is a very divisive subject. And there's 2 perspectives I want to share here. So I hope you listen to both. I hope you understand that these are coming from a good place. And truly what I want in this world is unity. I want us to all return to the ancient traditions and understanding that all of our ancestors 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 years ago, we're pagan, we're living in nature, we're living understanding that they were not the top of the food chain. So no matter what your ancestry is, I want us all to grow closer to our ancestors. And so part of my journey was finding where I'm from, because no matter what shamanic or healing circle I've been a part of or any shaman I've learned from, one of the biggest conversations is always ancestors. And this was troublesome for me as an American because a lot of the discussions in American paganism are on race. And, it gets very, very rage-filled very quickly, because there are definitely people who think that other races are lesser. There's people who think that ancestors don't matter, and these are both extremes. Ancestors do matter, but there is no race that is superior to another one. We are all equally disconnected from our ancestors. And I think a lot of these modern spiritual movements are about reconnecting to those who came before. I don't care who you are. AI is not smart enough yet. So whatever living being you are, you have ancestors, and you can connect with those ancestors. And connecting with them on a spiritual level is one of the best feelings I've ever had in my life spiritually. So this year I've been to all of the Scandinavian countries. I've been to Denmark, I've been to Sweden, to Norway, I've been to most of the Nordic countries, Finland as well. I went to Estonia. I have not yet been to Iceland. This is heavily on my list. But one of the things I noticed, so Norway, I never felt any ancestral connection. Not really in Sweden, even though Sweden's land looks a lot like the land here in Kentucky in a lot of regards. So I love Sweden for that. But let me tell you, the moment I got to Scotland, the moment I touched my feet, my bare feet to that soil, even with my shoes on, I felt an intense spiritual connection to the land there that was calling me home. And that is the only way I can describe it, is understanding that there was a large portion of my ancestry from that land, that people that were part of my family had died and bled into the heather on the sides of the moors, that people had walked and drank from those streams, that had hunted in those lands, who at one point most likely had pagan rituals and honored the natural powers of Scotland. And I traveled Scotland for about 5 months of this year, and it felt like home to me. And I have such an immense love for Scotland. And I know it's because of the ancestral connection, because I can feel it. I never felt those things in Scandinavia. So, please understand that I don't think I have any Scandinavian family in me, possibly. There's a whole mix in the UK in general from the times that the Vikings were raiding there. And who knows? We're all descended from the one great being, as Hylang says. So maybe one way far down. But Scotland for sure is a part of my recent family. And when I went to the Isle of Skye and to Arundel Castle there, that's where it all came together, because there was a painting of someone that looked just like me in the past, MacDonald, and someone that looked like my father nearby in a painting. And it is then that I understood where my family came from. And it all came together in one of the most intense spiritual experiences I've ever had. So ancestry does matter. And it is a very powerful component of spiritual connection. Having said that, this is the other side of the argument, is let's say you have absolutely no Scandinavian heritage, and you want to connect to the Norse gods, you want to connect to the Scandinavian people of now and in the past, you want to connect to Scandinavian culture. Trust me when I say I've spoken to a lot of Scandinavian people. I've spoken to Danes, to Swedes, to Norwegians. I've spoken to Finns, and they have absolutely no problem with people who want to take part in their culture and their heritage. And I think that goes for the religion as well. I think going to Midgardsblot, that's open to everyone. Everyone can give to Odin, everyone can give to Freya. And I think this was true in the past as well. It was less common. I think people didn't necessarily travel as much as now, obviously. And so it was less common for an outsider to follow the Norse gods. But I don't think it was unheard of. So I think, in general, the sharing of culture and ideas is true in Scandinavia. I think it's true in most cultures in the world. I think at the core of humanity, we want to share. And if people come to your tribe and they say, hey, I want to worship your gods, I think you'd be very excited about that. But I do think that if their gods were worshipped in a way that didn't honor the people of that tribe, I think the tribe has the right to be upset. And so I think with that, if we have absolutely no Scandinavian heritage, like most likely me, and I'm still worshiping the Norse gods, or you're interested in worshiping the Norse gods and you don't think you have any genetics connected to them, I think everything comes down to respect and understanding of a culture. And I'm guilty of this as well, because I came in during the Vikings hype of Norse paganism. is coming in too passionate, coming in disrespectfully, coming in based on a TV show rather than based on an actual living, breathing people that still exist today. And I think understanding the culture that exists now in Scandinavia, understanding the history of Scandinavia, the complexities within it as well, are all part of connecting to the religion, all part of connecting to the spirituality. Because spirituality and culture are very intertwined, and so it's a very hard road to walk of connecting to the religious beliefs of an ancient people, while also respecting the people who still are alive today, who may not necessarily follow those gods now, but still at the heart of their culture bear markers of the ancient pagan past. You'll never find a more powerful connection than connecting to your own ancestors. But I also genuinely believe that if you feel called to connect to the gods of another culture, then you are allowed to do it. And I believe the people of that culture believe that as well, but you must respect those people. You must respect their traditions as much as you can. And so I know this will be difficult for people. I know that not everyone has these means. But if you have absolutely no Scandinavian heritage and you want to connect to the Norse gods, I highly recommend traveling to Scandinavia. I think a good time for this as well is after this video films, I'll be going to Ecuador because I'm continuing this healing path, this shaman path. And I wanted to learn from shamans from South America because a lot of the shamanism that we have today is developed by Michael Harner, was developed by studying South American people. And so a lot of the shamanic tradition that exists today is South American based. And so I felt it in my heart that if I wanted to continue down this path, I needed to go to South America and I needed to learn from the shamans there. I needed to sit down with the actual lines and speak with them. I think, again, this is a retreat that was offered. Obviously, they welcome outsiders. But I think respect is everything in this conversation. I've been rambling on a long time. So I hope this all makes sense. Please let me know down below. Again, I come at this with a good heart. I usually don't have these conversations because of the divisiveness of the internet. Which is something we're going to be talking about in the next segment, is how spirituality doesn't really survive the internet. And so I think in the case of this conversation, it's difficult as well. Because I've had this conversation with many people in my travels about cultural appropriation, about sharing of ideas spiritually, and the conversations are always wonderful and enlightening and peaceful. But I feel like the moment you commit these conversations to a comment section or to a video, and you put yourself out there on the internet, people immediately want to judge every single word you say. They want to get on their soapbox and preach. So this has been a very difficult conversation, but it's something I've been feeling for a very long time. It's really a beautiful thing when people share respectfully and genuinely with others, because I think we all want to help each other heal in this crazy world. And I genuinely believe most people want to come together in peace and harmony and to make a better world. And so I hope this conversation is another small part of that. Hello and welcome to my tiny house, the fairy house. So this is where I live now, in the woods and the forest, because I sold everything. It's really comfortable. I have enough room for a singular bed, maybe a lamp, and at least one article of clothing. So if you want to support me and my small tiny house living here in the fairy house, please think about liking, subscribing, sharing, and all that good YouTuber stuff, but also supporting this channel on Patreon. So Patreon and YouTube members are down below if you do want to support the work I do here, so that I can continue to live in my tiny fairy house and create amazing content for you. So I have a lot of content coming up that's not in the fairy house. But what I'm planning on doing is creating seasons of content where I travel to places like Ireland and Iceland, set up some amazing interviews and film like 8 to 10 episodes all in a season. So that way Everything's kind of condensed in ideas. I can spend more money, more time on individual projects and locations. So I'm really excited. This is the first time I'm doing something like this. So if you want to become a part of that journey more personally, please think about supporting this channel. I'm going to be doing more vlogs, more behind the scenes footage, more interviews that are exclusive to these platforms as well. And then of course you are supporting this work here because it's just me. It's just, I'm the editor, I'm the filmmaker, I'm the director, the personality, the face, the content writer. And I think this year maybe I'll hire a camera person, but that's about it. So it's really any support for this channel, whether through Patreon, YouTube members, or through the book that I wrote and the other book I'm writing this year, it goes a long way to help what I do here. So anyway, you're able to help this channel and my dream of living in the fairy house. Thank you so very much. And with that, let's get back to this video discussing my advice for you in 2024. One of my greatest pleasures and joy in this last year of travel is the amount of festivals I have been able to attend that have a spiritual or full-on pagan nature to them, ranging from the Beltane Fire Festival in Edinburgh to a small shaman gathering in Estonia to Midgard's Bloat in Norway to the various small little events I attended in Glastonbury, Scotland, the Netherlands, and just all around Northern Europe in general. And so I got to see a lot of how spirituality and paganism specifically survives today in modern Northern Europe. And I got to say, it was truly incredible to see it with my own eyes. For instance, in the festival I went to in Edinburgh, this was like 15,000 people, by far the biggest festival that I was able to attend. And obviously not everyone there was pagan or even spiritually interested. Some people were just there to get pissed drunk and have a good time. But still, to see 15,000 people on top of a major city's hill where everyone in the city could hear them celebrating, playing drums. I mean, it's truly incredible. I think the most pagan moment, as I said in that video, was definitely right in the beginning of seeing like them start the fires from a single ember, and then it became the fire for the entire festival. That was a really powerful moment, seeing everyone sit there in reverence of the power of fire and the sun. It was just really cool. But the main thing I want to say in this section, because this is an advice section, is, well, one, paganism and spirituality is something that we think, especially in North America, that is like a small movement. And it's definitely small in comparison to like Christianity. However, I do believe that these beliefs are fairly alive and well, and they're beginning to spread further and further, and seeing just the amount of people that celebrate the natural powers, that come together in these kind of events, was truly inspiring. So if you ever do feel alone out there, know that you're not. You're definitely not alone in this spiritual revival of the nature-based religions. Now, again, I'm using unspecific terminology here because the main advice I have for you in this section is understanding that these spiritual movements, paganism in general, is not universal. I don't think any one person has the same exact belief when it comes to these religions as they survive today. And I am happy to report that this doesn't matter, and it shouldn't matter to you. Definitely when I first got into Northern traditions, into Norse paganism, I felt really isolated and alone because it felt like there was so much infighting between all the people that worship still today, that follow Norse paganism. There was so much gatekeeping, there was so much anger and animosity between everyone. It makes it feel like no one gets along. But in my experience, I truly believe that even though we have so many differences between our individual beliefs, these big festivals like Edinburgh or Castle Fest or what I saw in Glastonbury, it doesn't matter so much that we agree on all the details. We'll never agree on all the details, and that's okay. As long as we agree that paganism, these spiritual movements, are about connecting to the natural world, that are about, I shouldn't motion to the non-natural world here, but connecting to the natural world and becoming a better person, a better part of a community, to be better for our planet, to have a future and to connect to our ancestors. These things are at the core of, I think, these spiritual movements. Like I said earlier, we're all just trying to return to a simpler life and a simpler understanding of our world because we think that'll benefit our world now, ourselves, and our communities. And so I had so many wonderful conversations with people who don't have exactly the same pagan perspective as me. I sat down with them and we talked for hours. In fact, I don't think there was hardly a single person that I sat down and talked with that had the exact same beliefs as I do. And that's beautiful because we were able to share ideas, we were able to share concepts and grow as individuals, but also in our own individual beliefs because we have this understanding of why we all came to this. This is another advice or observation I have, and this is the fact that paganism and spirituality is benefited from the networking of the internet, but is not meant to solely survive there. Particularly when it comes to paganism, because paganism is a return to the ancient religions. These religions existed before the internet, before technology, before smartphones and cameras. These religions existed in the natural world. They were kept alive by people who were illiterate, by people who didn't travel a lot. They were, very localized religions with localized deities, sometimes with bigger concepts, of course. But the world that these religions were birthed in is very different than the world we live in now. And I don't believe that these are meant to survive online. We have to get together, we have to be face-to-face, we have to conversate, because the internet is not a good place to talk about these concepts because it does lead to conflict. And I've experienced almost zero conflict when talking to people face-to-face. Versus the internet, which is like walking on eggshells or a landmine field with a lot of people. And I don't think that's necessarily an individual person's fault. It's just the nature of the internet. So the spirituality and beliefs of the ancient world, and as they're bringing alive today, are not meant to survive online. We have to communicate in person and discuss them. But to summarize this section, the main thing is our practices are always going to be different. Don't focus on the differences, focus on our similarities, and communicate in person as much as possible, because I think you'll be very surprised how much better a spiritual conversation goes when it's face-to-face versus being online. So my last piece of advice for this video is simple, and I'm kind of trying to wrap it into a simple concept, and that is simply to breathe. Now, this might seem stupid, but I think a lot of spirituality, a lot of connecting to yourself is these simple things in life, the things we take for granted. A lot of this is coming from, of course, my healing journey, the spiritual retreats I've gone to this year, but also from a book I'm reading right now called Breathe or Breath, The New Science of a Forgotten Art. I'll put a link down below. It's been a really good book so far, and it's really just an exploration of breath work. This is obviously something that I haven't discovered. This is something that has just been helping me lately, and I think a good ending point for this. Because I think a lot of the times when we get into spiritual practices, paganism, we tend to overthink things. We tend to overanalyze, especially for those of us in North America, because we don't really have the ancient sites. We don't really have the culture. We only have books. We only have research. And so we go into these spiritual practices with an overly analytical mindset. And I genuinely believe that these ancient traditions were not meant to be overanalyzed, and they don't survive being overanalyzed. They really are connected to the simple things in life, such as breath, of understanding what breathing does for us. It's something we take for granted. It's something we do thousands of times a day, millions and billions of times in our lives. And so to actually consciously breathe and to simplify it and bring everything into a moment can be healing and can connect you spiritually. I mean, meditation is all based around breath, of focusing on the breath, of breathing slowly, exhaling slowly, doing full exhales, full inhales. And you do this for a time and it brings you peace. It can also, if you do it different ways, bring you anxiety. If you're not breathing enough or you're breathing in too much, you can get anxious. And the number one recommended thing to do, even by doctors, to help with anxiety, something that plagues many of us today in our overly busy world, our overly saturated world, is anxiety. It's something that has affected me for years now. And I think it's something that affects many YouTubers. So to take a moment in life and just breathe. And do that for a few minutes. So do it here in a beautiful place. This is called Eagle's Nest. I love that. To take it all in, to take in life, to slow it down. So simple. But this simple practice can be forgotten so easily. And people ask me advice all the time, and a lot of the times I do return to these things I've brought up in this video. What are you eating? What are you putting in your body? Have you tried meditation? Have you tried breath work? Very simple things. And a lot of times people's solutions to complex problems in life are these simple things of breathing, of meditating, of eating right and putting the right things in our body. Obviously, there's more complicated things, and those are things I'm trying to explore with this healing path of these more complicated methods of healing. And I've witnessed some truly magical things. Spiritual healing is very real. It's a very hard thing to navigate when talking to a camera and to the internet. I'm doing my best, but I think for 2024, my advice to end this video is simply to breathe, to keep things simple. If you're getting into a spiritual path for the first time, into paganism, keep it simple. Gratitude, be thankful, breathe, slow down in life, enjoy moments like this, shut off your phone, eat right, reflect on your ancestors, try to connect with them, show respect and love for the traditions that we're looking into. Because I think my practice was much more complicated when it was just starting out. I was trying to do these crazy, insane rituals. I was trying to do too much. I was trying to be too much. But 2023 was the best year for YouTube, and it was the best year for me spiritually because I simplified things, I slowed down, sort of. I don't know if traveling to 9 different countries in a year is slowing down, but my spiritual path, my spiritual practice slowed down quite a bit. I think a lot of that comes from the sacrifice of selling everything, of getting rid of stuff, and just having myself made me really reflect on me, made me really reflect inward. And focus on the external as far as friendships and seeing what is most important. I really hate stuff now. I didn't like it very much before, but I really hate it now. And I think a lot of it is because I've realized how happy I can be just by enjoying the company of my friends, just by being outside in nature, and by enjoying the simple comforts in life. I think one of the goals of spirituality is just to be content within yourself, be content in your place in the world. And I think I've reached that point. And now it's at the point of giving back. And so 2024 for this channel is a lot of giving back for all the generosity I've been shown over the years for this channel and for my spiritual path. So I definitely am looking forward to the content I create, to the interviews I'm going to bring to all of you. And I hope it's enlightening. I hope you enjoy it. I hope this video was helpful. Breathe. Be grateful. So thank you all very much, and I'll see you in the next video here at the Wisdom of Odin.